Hi YouTube, AC Dodd here, and welcome to the long-awaited part 2 of the 850 head rebuild video. I did the first part a long time ago and I haven't had a chance to get back on it. So here is part 2. There is going to be a part 3 as well, so please stay tuned for that as well to come in the future. But for now, please enjoy this video. So, finished putting the valve seat inserts in. So the next stage I'm going to do with this head is have a look at some of the removing some rust on the inside. So if we just look there, we can see we've got quite a layer of corrosion on the inside of the cylinder head. So what I'm going to do is put it in my de-rusting tank for a day or so. You can just see in there, in the waterways, we've got a layer of rust. So the idea is that will take some of that out, or at least all of it. And then we can move on with machining the rest of the head. So to that end, let's get this set up. So why are we going through the process of trying to de-rust the inside of this cylinder head? Because I certainly didn't used to do this years ago. Well, there's a reason for it, and that is because of the amount of years that have gone past, the amount of corrosion has built up inside these cylinder heads. And actually it starts to form an insulating layer on the inside of the casting, and it doesn't cool as well. So if you are having a cylinder head or an engine block indeed rebuilt nowadays, it's always wise to have the inside cleaned out so that you remove all those layers of corrosion that have built up over the years and all the dirty water and sludge and everything else, to leave the casting clean, so when the coolant goes inside it, it can actually interact with the surface of the material, the cast iron, and actually draw the heat out of it and do the job it's supposed to do, unhindered by thick layers of detritus. So it is very important nowadays to have your castings dipped, to have the insides cleaned out if you want a good running and cool running engine. So what we have here is my de-rusting bucket, which is basically a heated vat of Evaporust. That looks like it's really hot, but it's not. It's just basically, it's because it's cold in the workshop. But that's, you know, sort of the temperature of cool bath water, so not particularly hot at all. But what we're going to do is we're going to suspend the head. I've got basically an overhead hoist with a bracket arrangement, and then we're just going to drop that in there and leave that in there for 24 hours and see what happens. So let's get that lowered and get it underway. And we'll leave that in there for about 24 hours, and then we'll come back and see how it's done. So for those of you who are thinking about setting up your own de-rusting tank, then there are a number of ways of doing it. But you know, I've used horticultural vinegar. That works very well, but it's an acid, so it does actually attack the metal. So yes, that will clean it out, but if you've got corrosion inside the cylinder head and it's thin, then you know, if you leave it in there too long, you can end up eroding the metal, which is not a good plan. The other thing about the vinegar is you have to neutralize the casting afterwards, so there's another dip needed, so to speak, and that can get quite exciting. In terms of bubbles and you know, jetting water and things like that, if you're not careful, because of the reaction between the neutralizing agent, which is I use bicarbonate of soda. So I recommend the more expensive process of using a proprietary de-rusting treatment like Evaporust, because you know, you can just hose the thing off, put some WD-40 on it afterwards, and she's good to go. So they even recommend just re-dipping it in the Evaporust solution to stop it rusting. So you know, it is a very good product. I found that the product itself is much better, performs much better when it's heated, but you know, only slightly. As I said in the video there, you know, cool bath water is the temperature that's needed. You also hear me say here that I've just said let's leave it in for 24 hours. Well, in actual fact, it was much faster than that. So let's go and have a look and see what the results are. Just want to give an update. So we've got, it's just been in there for 2 hours. Okay, so I've just lifted it out now. We could already see it's had a huge effect, taking the rust off. Let's have a look in the water jacket. Just use my torch. That's already attacked most of that, which is excellent. So I don't even think this will need to be in perhaps all night, but with this temperature, the heating, it makes this work very quickly. So let's get this back in and continue the job. So heads out of the vat, it's all cleaned up. No, it didn't come out that clean, but basically what we have done is jet wash the casting off after it's come out to wash all the traces of the evaporust off, and then I've gone over it to remove the paint with a wire brush bit, and we can see, if we look over, the head's nice and clean. The rust is all gone. Obviously the rust doesn't the evaporust doesn't remove all the carbon, etc. I've had to take that out. But so how good's the evaporust been? Well, if we have a look in there, you can see casting wise, yep, I've run around the quick wire brush around the inside, but all that paint, etc. is still on there, and you can see right inside that there's just a few little bits of flaky paint, etc., and a bit of lime scale, but the rest of the casting is lovely, which is excellent. So just looking through the holes, you can see up around the corners, the evaporust has done a really good job taking it all out. And in my tank here, as you can see, yeah, it's got sort of 95% of that rust out. Now that only took 6 hours, so I'm really happy with that. And obviously I used it in heated condition, which makes all the difference. So with the head now clean, we can now bring our attention to pushing the guides out, putting new guides in, and start the machining process. So I'm sure you can see there that that evaporust did an excellent job on the inside, and in fact, yeah, as you saw, I took it out after 2 hours, and it had done most of the work, and then I took it out finally after 6 hours, and it obviously finished, you know, chomping its way through the rest of the rust that was in the casting. So the casting was actually rust-free when I took it out. I did mention there I had to run a wire wheel around, and that was basically any of the loose detritus and sort of rough bits and pieces, bits of paint and stuff like that, which I took off with a wire wheel. So yeah, I was really impressed with the evaporust. So yeah, highly recommended. And obviously you've seen the setup I have here. I just basically have a small keg which I heat with a proprietary mains powered heater, the sort of thing that you have in a fish tank, and it works really well. So yeah, thoroughly recommended for derusting. And obviously your derusting agent, you know, it doesn't last forever. The more you use it, the blacker it gets, and then eventually it just stops working so well. So that's only been used a couple of times at that point there. So that's why it had a massive effect so quickly. And obviously heating makes a huge difference to its performance. So as I say, if anybody's out there interested in setting one up, then you know, you do need to spend some money. It's not cheap. There's a good 40 litres of evaporust in that vat, but it does an excellent job, and more importantly, it won't corrode or rot anything, you know, like an acid bath would. So thoroughly recommended. Anyway, having said that, let's move on and over to the press. So we're over on the press, got the cylinder head up. We're going to push the guides out now. Just to remind ourselves, this is an early head, so the guides themselves aren't the ones that have the grooves in for the location of stem seals. So when we replace these, we're actually going to put the later ones in so we can actually utilise the later seals. So without further ado, what we'll do, we're going to use hardened steel punch, use the hydraulic ram, and then just push these out. And we just push the guide down through the head, and we repeat that 8 times until all the guides are out. There we go. Push the guide through the head, and we go back and we repeat as required until they're all gone. So with the guides out, we can see it's an opportunity. Not very easy to clean around the guides when they're in. As you can see, I've just run a wire wheel around those, clean up the seats. I shall just do these now so we can get those to look like those. And then what we're going to do is just check the height of the valve seat platforms, and also check the bores in the cylinder head and make sure we've got sufficient interference fit for the new guides. Okay, before I put the guides in, one of the things I like to do is to make sure that we've got sufficient fit to allow the guides to fit in. So if the holes that are bored in the head have worn for whatever reason, or they've distorted, or they're oversized, then clearly when we push in a new guide, we need to make sure there's sufficient fit to hold it in. So using a dial bore gauge set to the size of the guides, or the smallest guide, I can then go through and gauge the fit. So I've already done that off camera, and I can tell that number 5 and number 1 are slightly big. So what we're going to do with those two is, when I say slightly big, it's only sort of 3 or 4 tenths. So as luck would have it, in my guide set I have some guides which are 3 or 4 tenths bigger than nominal. So I'm just simply going to select the appropriate larger guide to go in that hole and that hole to maintain the fit. Anyway, with that being done, let's move on. So one of the mistakes that the home builder often makes is the failure to measure things. So they just push guides out, or they do some work on the thing and just assume, get things, put them in and assume that they're right. Unfortunately, in the real world, you have to you have to use engineering principles, and the principle here is the guides are held in place by an interference fit, and that is basically the hole in the head is bigger than the guide. The hole in the cylinder head is smaller than the valve guide, which fits into it by a certain amount. And if the hole in the head is either machined oversized or worn, if it's been the guide's been replaced a few times, or there's distortion in the casting, things like that, then you can have a situation where there's insufficient fit to hold the guide in. Now, in this particular case, because I've obviously measured them, I've found 2 here that were just a few tenths bigger, and in fact 3 or 4 tenths bigger. So one of the things I do is I buy my guides in bulk. So there are many, I've got quite a few, a couple of 100 guides, and I can go through them and obviously gauge, size them all. So therefore, when I do that, I can then find the larger ones, and then I can simply selectively assemble by picking the appropriate size guide and then putting it in the hole to maintain that interference fit. That's very important when it comes to these engines, and one of the other reasons they're like this is because people seem to forget classic Minis and A-series engines were the cheapest engine ever made, okay, in the UK in a mass production car. So the reality is the tolerances were anything but tight, so they can vary by quite a lot, which is why it's even more important that you must measure and match your sizes to make sure that you get a reliable operation, when it's in service. So I can't stress enough, the point is these castings and the machining on them vary massively, and you have to be able to match the appropriate fits to get a successful serviceable job. So I've got the head over in the mill. What am I doing? Well, part of a full rebuild really involves machining all the surfaces as well, so restore all the seal, make sure everything's nice and flat. So as you can see, I've already cut the rear manifold face, so I'm just going to put another cut on there now, just to finish that up and give it a nice finish, and then I'm going to turn it round and machine the top face as well to take out any of the corrosion around the thermostat area, and obviously around the heater tap hole. So let's crack on. So, got the head off the mill. Now, one of the things that often gets overlooked is cleaning out threads. So that's all part of doing a rebuild. So here I am, just running a tap through. This is the rocker post mounts. So this is a 5/16 UNC thread. So we wind this all the way in. And then obviously I will remove that and clean all the rubbish out the threads. I'll also go through all the rest of the threads. I've already done the exhaust manifold ones. These are 5/16 UNF, and then of course there's the heater ones over there, which are 1/4 UNF. So I shall crack on with those. No need to show those on the camera, and then we'll move on. One of the other things we have to do on the cylinder head is clean the holes out. So if you can see here, although it is not full of detritus because the rust has been cleaned out, we've still got discoloration, staining, and in some cases just bits of you know, heavy carbon deposit where oil has gone up and sort of been baked on over the years. So what we do is we go through the holes, give them a clean out, and all I use for that, and I've covered this before in other videos, is just my Milwaukee fuel drill, and then use some 60 grit emery, just pass through the holes, and obviously that then cleans the holes out nicely. So yeah, well worth doing. I also do just the inside of the coolant holes as well. The idea here is not to open these out, it's just to give them a bit of a clean. All right, and as I've said before as well, the center hole is size smaller than the rest of the cylinder head stud holes, and that's because that's a positional hole. So again, when you clean these out, just make them free of detritus and don't open that out, because you don't want to move, you know, allow clearance for that to move on the head, on the block, sorry, because obviously the gasket needs to align with the cylinder bores, and this head needs to align using that stud hole to make sure that the gasket sits in the right place. So with all that being said, let's go back over to the bench and I'll round up this part of the video. Okay, so that's it for part 2 of this video. Apologies for this being a long delay since I did the first part, and 10 months ago now or something like that. But I've just been really busy with tuning, so unfortunately the success of that has meant that other work has had to go to the side. So in this particular case, I'm back on this head now, so hopefully part 3 will be following fairly soon. I'm not going to promise myself that I'll get it done next week, but the point is I'm on the job. So hopefully you like this video. Please like, subscribe and share. If you get the opportunity, please hype, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you very much.